And I was like saying, man, I think I could be real successful here. So I told my coach, hey, I want to go to Oklahoma. He reached out to Coach Venables, and man, in about 2 weeks, Trev, I promise you, I had a scholarship, man.
It's cool to see now that he's come back and now he's the head coach, right?
But he took an opportunity, which I'm not upset at him. I would have took that opportunity. But it ended up working out for both of us, So he was very successful at Clemson. I was very successful at Oklahoma. But I always wonder, if I always would have got coached by Coach V.
No doubt. If you would have followed him to Clemson, I think, you probably would have had a national championship ring. But we were not had you in Woman. That's right.
College football tees, college basketball tees, whatever you need, Mercury has you covered with the best merch out there. We're talking about high quality clothing, inexpensive, and the best part is I have a 15% discount for everybody who goes and gets some right now. Use the code below, hit the link in the description, and go get your merch now. Use the code to get 15% off. What are you waiting on? Go do it.
Sooner faithful, welcome back to the Dial It Up podcast with Trevor Knight. My esteemed co-host and twin brother, Connor Knight, couldn't make it today, but that's okay because we got a fantastic guest on. Near and dear to my heart, we came in the same year in 2012, straight out of Tampa, Florida, a fan favorite and a guy that would wreak havoc off the end of the line of scrimmage, a quarterback's nightmare, Mr. Eric Striker. Strike, how you doing, my man? Give us an update of what's going on in your world.
Trev, man, first of all, I appreciate the introduction. Nice to see you, man. I love what you're doing, dialing it up, man, getting back the guys talking and these memories, and we need it. Like you said, we close. It's been, such a while. But lately I've been in my independent contractor game where I take loads of lumber, tile. It could be mulch. Tires. I take a load of things and I, basically take them up and down Florida, different cities around, St. Pete, Clearwater, Bradenton, Sarasota. And basically that's what I'm doing now, basically independent contracting. And then on top of that, which was my main focus, which is what I love what I'm doing, which is sports training at Striker Core Sports Fitness and Training, where I get the opportunity to train kids, and fitness, and wellness, and as well as sports-specific, position-specific drills. Obviously I played outside linebacker, so I specialize in rush drills and linebacker drills and things like that. But Striker Core has been amazing. It's been an amazing turn in my life. Ever since I started with the kids, I wanted to go all in with the kids. Like you said, you got to be very consistent with them. So I've given, that side of my life up to training kids and giving back. So it's been great, Trev.
That's awesome, man. Great to hear, and congrats on all the success. So we're going to make a clip of this. Striker Core, if you're in the greater Tampa area, hit up Eric Striker, best in the business, outside linebacker training and everything else. There's nobody better to get your hands dirty with than Mr. Strike himself. And then what's the name of the contracting business, Striker Core as well?
Well, yeah. Well, right now I don't have, I call it Striker Core Express Deliveries. That's what I promote. I haven't got until, LLC and that yet, but eventually it's coming. But yeah, I do my, I still do my thing, in the community. We're helping people move, Excel packages, furniture, tables, treadmills, heavy source of that thing. So yeah, so I promote that, but it's on the way. Striker Core Express Deliveries.
I love it, baby. You need extra large delivery or moving, call up your boy here. That's awesome, man. Well, let's dive into the good old days. We were talking offline a minute ago about how cool it was in that time there in Norman, how close we got. You're doing life every day. You're out on the ball field. You're playing on Saturdays, but take a step back from that. You grew up in Tampa. There's obviously plenty of fantastic opportunity in colleges in Tampa and everywhere between Florida and Oklahoma. Talk a little bit about playing in high school, going through the recruiting process, and what it really was that brought you to Norman, Oklahoma, of all places.
Yeah. Well, it really started as I was a very energetic kid, and I had to find something to do. And I think for a lot of us, man, I thank God for football because it was just perfect for me to get off my energy, all that passion that I had, to give to life. And so it just started there. But, I remember, I actually didn't know anything about the recruiting process, Trevor, until my Coach Callahan, Sean Callahan at Armwood High School. He's retired now. But, he said, Eric, these colleges, this is right my sophomore year, these colleges are asking for you. They're going to want to see you, come meet you and talk to you. I said, well, Coach, I don't, and he said, well, just keep doing what you're doing and focusing. And, and eventually, we'll start the recruiting process. But, I mean, I had success. I played nose guard in Little League, and I played running back. But I think I had more success on the defensive end. I had to get off just like I did. It's kind of funny. I had to get off just like I did at nose tackle in Little League. And it really just, and eventually I played receiver freshman year until those defensive coaches, they start getting in my head saying, come on, Strike, you're a defensive guy. Come on to the dark side. And so eventually I went to defense and outside linebacker, man. And from that, man, it was a position I could just live life and play football, man. Just be free, come off the edge, a little bit of dropping, but mainly working that line of scrimmage. So I just found success there and, and to get off and being quickness. But, Florida football is really fun. We had TBYFL. When we were young, I played for the Progress Village Panthers, and a lot of teams were named after, NFL teams. But it was very, very fun time, very enjoyable time. We had a great time. And then we got to high school, it was amazing, great high school experience. I got to win state. But, yeah, so, I think it was, sophomore year. Once I, went to outside linebacker, man, everything was just went up from there.
Yep. So things started clicking. You start getting confidence and obviously playing really good football. Who was it from Oklahoma that came down and really started to recruit you and build a relationship with you?
Coach Venables, Coach V, the legendary Coach V. Right before, we had Florida State, Miami. And I had Miami and, didn't have Florida. Muschamp ended up coming to Florida. Will Muschamp was working on getting Florida and Florida State necessarily not. But my focus was leaving the state for football and just being able to, get out of the state and just play high-level football. And I thought no better way than to leave with somewhere like Oklahoma, Alabama, LSU, USC, somewhere that has a great tradition. And so, Coach, I reached out to my coach and I said, hey, I want to go to Oklahoma. And I just started studying schools outside of Florida. And I think Oklahoma, it started to become my top one. And I just love the tradition, everything I studied about it, and the fans and the culture around it. And I was like, Sam, man, I think I could be real successful here. So I told my coach, hey, I want to go to Oklahoma. And eventually, it caught on. But at first he, was like, Strike, Florida kids, they don't go to, they don't leave the state. We usually stay around. But, man, I wanted to leave until I let him know, hey, I'm not going to college unless I go to Oklahoma. So he reached out to Coach Venables, and that was it, man. Coach Venables checked out my film, my junior year film. And, man, in about 2 weeks, Trev, I promise you, I had a scholarship, man. But I'll get more into that. But, yeah, that's basically how it happened. Coach V. Here, let me try to get right back in the camera. But, yeah, Coach Venables. Coach Venables was the first coach. And, he fell in love with me, man. Fell in love with me as a kid, as a ball player. So
it's awesome. It's cool to see now that he's come back and now he's the head coach, right? And I know that hits home for you. We'll talk about that in a minute, just what you've seen out of him now stepping back into the reins as the head guy. But he recruits you. You love Venables. You love Oklahoma. But then I think it was 2011, so our senior year of high school, Venables takes the job at Clemson. So now your guy that fell in love with you, that offered you, leaves. Talk about what that meant. Was there ever a time where you were like, maybe it's not Oklahoma, or were you dead set on the Crimson and Cream?
Yeah, it was. Well, I was dead set. I mean, me and Coach Venables had a very tight relationship. He would come down. He came down to Florida at least 2 or 3 times for me. Sorry about that, man. I'm trying to get this thing to prop up. But he came down to Florida at least about 2 or 3 times. And we enjoyed our time together. I mean, he met my mom, he met the coach, came around, met my classmates, met my teachers. Such a wonderful guy. And we built a tight relationship, man. We talked on the phone all day, all night. Coach V, everybody knows being recruited by Coach V. He gonna talk on the phone with you no matter what. So, he's gonna ask you about your grades, how you doing, and everything like that. But it was February. I think it was February, right before. It might have been like 2 weeks before signing day. It was this. Those blogs and those sports outlets and media sites start to say Coach Venables is entertaining, leaving, going to Clemson. And we actually had a conversation prior to that, he was telling me, basically that he's locked in, but I was understanding that, new opportunities, and everything like that. So I was still set on Crimson and Cream. But when the news came out, it came out that he was gone. I wasn't too hurt because I still wanted to go to Oklahoma. I just wanted to make sure, that I would, be still in the right situation. But I had a real deep, heartfelt conversation with him. When the news broke, we talked. And I let him know that, I'm going to continue to go to Oklahoma. And he supported that. He approved of that. And, we were real tight. I would have loved to play with him and play under him, but he took an opportunity, which I'm not upset at him. I would have took that opportunity. But it ended up working out for both of us, So he was very successful at Clemson. I was very successful at Oklahoma. But I always wonder, if I always would have got coached by Coach V.
No doubt. If you would have fallen into Clemson, I think, you probably would have had a national championship ring. But don't. We would have had you in Norman. That's right. So you decide to stick it out. You go to OU, and that's where we met. And we all moved into the Bud, which I love the Bud, man. Headington Hall was great, but the Bud days were awesome, where everybody would hang out in that downstairs movie area. We played ping pong, we played pool. Everybody's doing their laundry right next to that, and you're making fun of people. Their drawers are falling out of their basket when you're walking by. And man, those were the days. But I remember right there from the beginning, our class, 2012 class, got pretty close. I think we had some guys in that class that stepped on campus day one with a level of leadership that was just absolutely necessary, you being one of those guys. And it's hard as a young person to step into a leadership role when you got great seniors and juniors that have paved the path for you. But I know for me personally, what I wanted to do from the get-go to earn trust from the coaching staff and the older guys was to kill it in Schmidty's workouts. Yeah. And I didn't really know what to expect, but I remember the first day we were out there where we got moved from just the freshmen to going with our position groups, and we were doing those 350s around the track. And I was like, man, this is for real. And then the next day we went over and we did our first day of stadiums, and I was like, oh my gosh, this ain't a cakewalk, right? So talk about when you step foot on campus. What was it like transitioning from a football standpoint, leadership standpoint, and then share some of your favorite Schmidty stories there from that freshman summer? Because for me, that was the hardest year by far.
Man, yeah. I agree with you, Trev. I think a lot, I think we had some great leaders our freshman year, a lot of focused guys. I think we were I think we really were inspired to be great, to get a championship and to win. And I think we had a big group of focused guys with, great personalities and great characters as well. I mean, you're talking about guys from California, Florida, Texas, and everywhere in between. And so just, my thing always was, I was chosen as a captain in high school, and it always came natural to me, but my thing was, I was really serious, a lot loaded than just being the best athlete and the best teammate and the best student that I could be at the university. But I knew I had to win my teammates over first and no better way than to start doing that in the weight room and the training with Schmidty. And I think that's where my focus came in and becoming that player and that leader was to starting with Schmidty and showing that my teammates that, hey, I can keep up and I can, evolve and become, that step up and be ready to play ball. And so that's just kind of how I looked at it. And I also enjoyed it. But, man, I remember we were running those like you said, man, those 350s, man, coming in that Oklahoma heat. And I always told people that, man, we reached like 108, 104 in Oklahoma, man. It's humid. It's dry. You got a bit of Florida. You got a bit of the West Coast all in one. But, man, it was some hard days. I can honestly say I never fell off.
I didn't either.
But even though I never fell off, I understood how tough it was, man. We were running, I remember freshman year, we had to run those hundreds in the out there in the track on the field. And, we ran like 2400s. But freshman year, this is when we moved from the freshman group. They moved me to the, with the linebackers and the DBs. And how about, man, I sit up there and beat the DBs and the linebackers at all their times. And Schmidty literally got on them about a freshman. And I remember we got back to the locker room. And Striker want to be this and Striker want to be that. But, man, I was just really, really trying to prove myself, to Schmidty, to my teammates. But that's what I do. I overexcel, but I overdid it. But I was so, dedicated and focused, man, and I want to be the best teammate and best athlete that I could be. So that's kind of how it started, especially with that day. But, man, I didn't look back, ever since, man. But, we had these conversations, man. If you can make it through, especially Coach Schmidty, a legendary military-minded coach, disciplined, being on time, being 15 minutes early. And so just really some of the greatest times of our lives were with him, of college were with him and in that weight room. And my best, funny, favorite Schmidty memory is when that day in our freshman group, I think it might have been spring and we had a freshman group, Trev. I don't know. Maybe that spring, or maybe it was that. No, it was freshman year group in the season. And we went to break it down to start the workouts, and Cal Gibson wasn't there. And Schmidty hit us with the worst Cal, And, he basically told us we're not going to start the workout until we find Cal, man. And we had to go find Cal. We went up to the dorm, to the Bud. Cal was on the second floor, banging on Cal's door. Could not get Cal up. And Cece had to fucking fall off the second floor. Because
he broke his ankle, didn't he?
What?
He hurt his ankle pretty bad.
Yeah, he hurt his ankle, man. Cece, yeah. And he couldn't, because remember, it locks you in. The Bud will lock you in. You had to have a card. Cece didn't have a card. And Cece had to jump and unfortunately hurt his ankle. But that was one of my, crazy. I never thought that we would, stop a workout over one guy. But, Schmidty took it that serious. But it was a one mindset, one team. And that helped build our character, our team. So, we went looking for Kyle. I think we eventually got him. But, I had some other great moments with Schmidty, man. He's just great, man. Before the game, pumping us up, man, getting us ready to go. The energy, loving his energy, man, loving his will to that. A lot of things I remember not thinking I could be 215. And I remember my nickname was Fitting for a second because I came in sophomore spring. I was like 212 or maybe like 211, and I was struggling to get to 215. And I told him, man, that's going to be – and I never remember the day, man. It was like week 5 of spring, sophomore, man. I stepped on that scale and it was 215, man. He went off. I went crazy. He went crazy, man. And Fitting, start calling me Fitting because I was too baby. Yeah. So yeah, man, great guy, great coach, and was very necessary to our success and our individual success.
He
at the
was.
University of Oklahoma.
And you hit it on the head. I mean, what he does from a culture standpoint, accountability standpoint, getting everybody in the same boat, rowing in the right direction. He's the best in the business. But the fact that you never fell out, and I didn't either, I just want everybody out there listening to know, people fall out in the warm-up. And the warm-up is just as hard as any workout y'all probably ever been through. I mean, it was insane. So
it was insane. So, yeah.
Good memories there. But you mentioned, I mean, you struggled to get to 215. From a linebacker standpoint, you put your foot there, and you were going up against 6'6", 350-pound tackles, right? And you had a tremendous amount of success in your pass rush game, and then obviously out in the field as well, playing the kind of the stand-up linebacker position. I'll never forget, redshirt freshman year. Obviously, we're playing Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. You had a huge night. Probably the most iconic photo of you from your college career is, and it should have been a penalty, is when you made the big play and you rip your helmet off and you just scream. And dude, that picture to this day fires me up. But you were going up against, I believe, Cyrus Kwanjo was their tackle in that game, who was projected top round pick. Everybody was saying you weren't going to have a shot to get around the edge and get to A.J. McCarron, and you just went off. So talk a little bit about that, just from your size and stature going up against these big dudes and what it took from a mental standpoint. Obviously, you had a great get off and your bend was crazy, but from a mental standpoint, going out there and having the confidence to go up against these big boys and be successful.
Yeah. Well, man, that was a great time, a great game. And, I remember, coming into college, it was this thing about me being undersized and, certain things I might not be able to be successful. And, I think it's important for the young athletes to know out there, it's about the will as well, Trev. And I think my will carried me through, along with my ability to study, my ability to day in and day out work at my rush, my speed, my get off the edge. All that put together helped me be successful in college. And the importance in watching film, I actually studied Kwanjo majorly before that game. And I don't know if people understand that. I mean, right, because once we found out we were playing Alabama, that's when it started. We're going to get blown out. We don't have a shot. And then what shot do I have against this guy who's projected first round, 6'7"? I'm 5'10", 5'11". But I remember studying him, we had about 2 or 3 weeks. And then I remember that week before in New Orleans, man, I just was studying the heck out of him. But I remember saying I could kill him with the bend on the edge, just that bend. He's tough and he's aggressive, but I've seen the most ends and outside linebackers have success on him just on working on that edge and just bending that shoulder and then ripping up. So that's what I wanted to work on him. So watching film also helped me be successful in that game as well. So I want to make that very clear. Film is very important. It's almost like a cheat code. But, man, I was so fired up, Trev, before that game. And I don't think I slept. Man, it was an 8 o'clock game. Man, I remember going to sleep really late, but I slept in. I remember going to sleep really late, man, thinking about how this is going to be the greatest performance or the greatest game of my life that I have to have. And I just wanted to go out there and have it and have fun as well. And I think that's exactly what ended up going down, man. So I prepared for it, worked for it to face Kwanjo, man. 3 sacks. Man, it couldn't be nothing but just that will, man, that grind, that grit, and that want to, just that dog to get there. And it was tough, man. We went at it, man. That was a boxing match. I mean, he got me sometimes. There was some, bickering things in between, man. But that was one of the greatest matches of my life. Great competition for Kwanjo. And, you'll basically end up being Sooner Magic, man. It's just amazing. Actually met him in Buffalo, and we actually talked about it. He actually got drafted to Buffalo. I think he was there maybe 2 years prior, maybe a year. And then, obviously I ended up signing to Buffalo. And we ended up talking about that moment, man. It ended up, a little awkward at first, but he couldn't believe, nobody could believe, that we made it happen, man. But that's like I said, like we were talking about earlier, man, this the group of guys we had, our class, the leadership of that year, man, just really the will and the want to. And of course, you, Trevor, being the MVP, man, great game. And like you said, and you can speak on it, man, to talk of that will, that precision, that focus, and being able, I got your quote right here. When you play as well as you are capable of, you want to play that way week in and week out. Come on, Trev.
Look at that. Look at that. You came prepared. Look at that.
Us, man.
I love it. Look at this.
Time, baby.
That's right, man. That was a
That
game where we prepared the right way. I think we had a great plan in all three phases, and then we executed on it, but nobody gave us a shot. Obviously, something that put you, myself, really on the map for the rest of our careers. And of course, there's tons of ups and downs as your career goes on. But that game was amazing. Another one of my favorite games of yours, and really pictures that always pops in my head when I think about you, is the Texas game. And I'm forgetting if it was 2014 maybe.
Maybe 2014.
Where you flipped Case McCoy. I mean, that was just fantastic. But outside of those two, what was your favorite venue or your favorite game to play in? Was it Tennessee? Was it Notre Dame? What were your favorites and your highlights?
I gotta give it to the Vols, man. Gotta give it to Tennessee. Notre Dame was electric.
Yep.
But, man, just that lead up, we played Tennessee the year before. Man, and to go in that stadium, man, oh, my gracious, 100,000. I mean, and they had those little mics, Trev, remember? Yep. And those fans, I have never experienced not being able to – we had to communicate with signs because we couldn't talk. We couldn't hear each other being, right next to each other. But, man, what an electric game, electric night. Electric time. Definitely one of my best venues, favorite venues I played in, man. And the competition was on 1,000, man. The energy was on 1,000 from both squads. So I had a great time, man, in Knoxville.
That was electric. So two quick questions here to follow up. Obviously, got to play with a lot of great players and against a lot of great players in college. Who are a couple of those guys that you got to play with in Oklahoma that really they made you better? We've talked a lot on this show about, I think that when Bake came in, the way that he was able to rally the team around him, and you just inherently wanted to follow him. And you wanted to be better because of the way that he pursued every single moment of every single day. And if Bake's your example, I want to hear your thoughts. But who else that you played with was like, man, that was a great leader. He taught me how to play this game. He taught me how to be a pro, and he helped me to kind of leave my jersey better than I found it in Norman.
Oh, there's a couple guys, man. I think RJ was a great leader. Our freshman year, man, he gave me a lot of information, a lot of game on how to be better, how to work the edge. Kenny Stills. Man, I think Kenny Stills was one of, a great leader. He set a great example. He was one of those leaders that took you in, you know what I'm saying, didn't, push the freshmen away. And like you said, Baker, that Baker effect, you know what I'm saying? He came in very, very hungry, very, wanting to be successful. So I think especially on the offensive side, very, rallying you guys together. Yeah. But he was a good addition to the team, especially when he came on. But I think, man, Tap and Zach, man, all those guys, my peers, my teammates, those guys, man, it's helped me be very successful, Tap working that end, Zach on that back end. I think the hunger from Dom Alexander, Devontae Bond made me better. He came in hungry, wanting to be successful, kept me on my toes, kept me on my game. A lot of those guys. Will Johnson was another guy, came in, helped me be a better guy, showed me, man, how to come in from, JUCO transfer to become a great D1 player, man. His hunger, his focus, his grind. I always said, man, that stuck out with me with Will Johnson. So a lot of those guys on that end, man, I'm trying to think of some more guys. Jaden Bird, Joseph Ibb.
Yep.
Those two guys, man, my freshman year, man, great focus, great leaders. Corey Nelson, man. Let me speak on Corey Nelson, man. Corey Nelson and Frank. Those two guys really took me in. Let me get it straight on those two guys. I mean, the type of information, the type of leadership I got, man, from those guys freshman year helped me really be successful in my role. And though at the time, I think freshman year, I wasn't at outside linebacker, man, those guys were telling me, my day would come and just keep grinding. But seeing those guys go in and grind, and I don't know, man, Corey, man, was just on and off the field, in the weight room, in the workouts, just a great leader. So Corey Nelson, definitely.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree with that. I remember feeling, stepping in the locker room, a little nervous about the older guys and trying to navigate these new waters of playing college football. And those guys really put a hand down and reached up and grabbed us and elevated us from the get-go, which was really cool. I think that's a mark of what makes a great team. So last question here for you, Strike. And, man, this has been a lot of fun.
Yes, it has.
You have an experience, obviously, because he recruited you and you built a personal relationship with Brent Venables. He has come in the last couple of years, and I think he's done an amazing job culturally at Oklahoma, picking up the pieces of the departure of Lincoln. And quick aside, I love Lincoln. I know you love Lincoln. He was a great culture fit. He was a great culture driver. I enjoyed playing for him. But when he left, there were certainly some pieces to pick up. And I think BV did a great job of that. So what are your thoughts on BV, how he's running the program, and what do you expect out of the 2024 Sooners?
I love it. I love Coach V. Was asking for him. I was hoping for it. I was putting the energy out there that Coach Venables will come back and be our head coach. I think it's what we needed, man. I think it's what we were missing, that energy, that hunger, finding those guys that want to play football, that want to play defense, that want to, just the love of the game to go get it. And I think Coach Venables exemplifies that energy, and he gets those players that are hungry and just love the game for the game. And I'm excited about it. I think he's done a great job these last couple of years. And now going into SEC, obviously, as we all know, I think the expectations for us to, have a great season are high, and I think they are up there. And I think he will be successful. And I think, like I said, I think in everything it takes time. But I believe Coach Venables is on his way, man. I can see that culture forming. And those guys, and like I say, he was, successful at Clemson, getting those guys, the championship he has. I mean, number one defense, top 3 defenses in all the years that he's been there. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about going to the SEC, switching up the competition, man. I'm really excited about that, man. I think we can do this. I think we could be very successful and win a championship and win a SEC championship rather early. So, I'm all for it, and I'm excited for him. I'm happy for him. So
I love it. I agree with you, and I know you'll be watching from Tampa, Florida. If you guys are, again, in the Tampa area, hit up your boy Strike for your moving needs and also for some training. Strike, man, this has been so much fun. To our listeners out there, our Sooner listeners, we're getting close, man. We got the summer. I know these guys are going to be in workouts, and then it'll be the season time. We'll definitely have Strike back on during the season to recap some of these games and give some perspective from the defensive side of the ball. So as always, follow us on social media at Red Dirt Media Co. and follow along week in and week out for some fun stories and reminiscing on the good old days in the Crimson and Cream. Eric Striker, everybody. Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Trev.